Australia's manufacturing sector has slowed down. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here again, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Once again, loyal stein of coffee in hand, surviving the busy day. Now I thought we would read through the latest manufacturing PMI from the Commonwealth Bank. I've got it up here, with figures revised for August. Now, August has dropped down. It has decreased. How the PMI works is it's a scale from 0 to 100. 50 is essentially a neutral market. Neutral where it's not an issue. Whereas below 50, and I'm just bringing up some figures here, below 50 indicates that it is a contracting market. Above 50 indicates it's a growing market. And they do that by surveying people, surveying manufacturers. They ask them a very simple question, with regards to the amount of work they have on the books. How does it compare to the previous month or previous quarter? And then they quantify that qualitative response, but they try and keep it quite clear so to remove any bias. We can have a look. This is the data from Trading Economics. We're down to 50.9, so we're still slightly positive. Let's jump out to 5 years, and you can see here, it's generally been positive in the last 5 years. We've got 10 years and max. Oh, well, that's all the data we have. That's all the data we have here. But you can see it was forecast to be 51.3, but it's 50.9, so it's less than the forecast. It's less than the forecast. So the market tries to, of course, they try to anticipate where this is going, so it can affect share prices and all these other things, fun stuff that average people don't really think much about, but can make a tremendous impact. So, manufacturing slowdown continues in August, the key findings. So the latest PMI survey indicates a further moderation in growth in Australia's manufacturing sector in August. Output growth was only marginally reflective of a weakening sales trend. Growth of overall new work slowed, despite rising export sales. Softer demand conditions saw firms cut back on purchasing activity, deplete inventory, as well as take on workers at a slower pace. That will align with the decline in job advertisements we spoke about recently. Input, and I'll put a timestamp to that here. I'll just write down the time so I can remember. Input inflation, meanwhile, intensified, but charges rose only marginally. So we can see here, this is their Commonwealth Bank Manufacturing PMI. So I'm going to zoom in just so I can see it a bit clearer, guys. The headline index from the survey, the seasonally adjusted Commonwealth Bank Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, slipped from 50.6 in July to 50.9 in August, indicating the joint weakest improvement in manufacturing conditions since the survey history started in May 2016, on par with April's readings. Okay, so it's no wonder I can't get more data. It's a new thing. The headline PMI is a single-figure composite indicator derived from questions on output, new orders, employment, input inventories, and delivery time, and designed to provide a quick snapshot of the performance of the manufacturing economy. Okay. So we can see here, we're still in expansion, but a slower rate of growth. We're still expansion and a slower rate of growth. So, we're still expanding. Yay! The latest survey signaled a further softening of demand conditions midway through the third quarter. Despite a return to growth in export sales, overall new orders rose at the second weakest pace in the survey history. Anecdotal evidence highlighted higher competition and a weakening housing market are key reasons for lower overall sales. Well, do you think the property boom in Sydney and Melbourne that we discussed earlier could address this? Responding to slower new order growth, Australian goods producers scaled back on purchasing activity for the first time in 4 months, instead tapping into existing stocks to meet production requirements. Input inventories fell in August for the third time in the past 4 months. So what does that tell you about the confidence of these people? What does that tell you about their business confidence? So, if we look at here, we've got consumer confidence and business confidence from Westpac. It was shooting up to 100. But yeah, this is telling me a different story, isn't it? That they're going, oh, we might as well burn through this stock. No point ordering this whole. Let's use what we have here and not put money into stock. That's the tough thing in manufacturing, where you've got to literally, you know, particularly in construction, my perspective, where people have to build these bloody things and don't get paid until the end. Softer demand conditions led to a further development of spare capacity among Australian factories, as indicated by a second consecutive month of decline in the level of unfinished business during August. In fact, the fall in backlogs was the steepest in the series history, which weighed on hiring. Jobs growth, meanwhile, slowed to the weakest pace for 3 months. Supply chains remained under pressure in August, with material shortages and shipping delays from Chinese suppliers reportedly leading to the lengthening of delivery times. On the price front, input cost inflation intensified, lifted by a weaker exchange rate and higher prices for raw materials. This is the counter to our, the dollar going down. This is just showing you here how we're becoming less competitive. However, the extent to which higher costs could be passed on to customers was limited amid slower sales growth. Output price inflation was the weakest for nearly 2 years. Oh, well, that's good. So there you go. Maybe it's not going to affect consumer spending, but it's going to affect these businesses. It shows you they're not buying additional stock, are they? So we'll jump here. So I'll zoom out again so you can see that. Output index. Production volumes in the Australian manufacturing sector rose for a 4th consecutive month in August. However, the rate of growth was the weakest in the current sequence of expansion and marginal overall. While greater inflows of new orders were the main reason cited by firms for increased output, there were reports of lower sales and a lack of staff at those firms that reported lower production. There you go. So higher. So this is the question. So this is the question they asked. Please compare your production output this month with the situation 1 month ago. And this is how they answer. It's this simple. Higher, the same, or lower. There you go, guys. We've just done a PMI, first question on a PMI. I seriously want to, I'd love to develop a PMI for the architectural industry. Just what's on the drawing board and ask these questions. Maybe I should do it. Be a good idea. Good idea. Be a good project to do, I think. There you go. Okay, so you've heard it here first. Heise says they're going to develop a PMI. Let's see if I pull it off. Because, I mean, the architects, we are the first person in the start of the construction process. Often, we're right up there before you even get the building approvals data. So I think that would be interesting to see. Because I was telling my mates, when I feel it, they feel it a year later, usually the tradies. So, yeah. So, the second question. So the new orders index. Please compare the state of your new orders in units this month with 1 month ago. So I wish they had percentages here on this little thing. The same, lower and higher. New orders received by Australian goods producers increased further midway through the third quarter, maintaining the current unbroken run of expansion since the series began in 2016. However, the pace of growth eased to the softest in 4 months and was modest overall. Firms generally committed on increased client demand as a factor behind higher sales, but others highlighted concerns about weak housing demand. I wonder if we can get a list of who they are surveying in this. Okay, new export orders index. Please compare the state of your new export orders in units this month with 1 month ago. So, majority of them are the same, a few higher, a few lower. I want a percentage. I mean, I know we don't need percentages here because it's all factored into this, but still. But it just shows you how many haven't changed. The majority of people in all these circumstances haven't changed. It's the same. But, and so slightly more skewing it to the positive in these, just slightly more. Having fallen in the previous 2 months, international demand for Australian manufacturers' goods rose in August, as indicated by the respective seasonal adjustment index posting about the no change 50s level. That said, the degree of expansion was only marginal, yes. Anecdotal evidence suggests that overseas business expansions and a weaker exchange rate contributed to higher foreign sales. Yep, Okay. So this is PMI by IHS Market. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. I can't afford to get a professional to do it. Okay, this would be the type of thing that I would have wanted to see from the Institute of Architects. You know, doing this type of thing for my profession when I was a member of it, but they were interested in other things. In other things, you know, backlogs of work index. Please compare the level of outstanding business in your company this month with 1 month ago. So, the more people lower, yeah, this is definitely lower. This is definitely lower. So yes, well, higher, small portion, more lower, most the same. August provided further evidence of spare capacity developing in Australia's manufacturing sector, as reflected by the seasonally adjusted backlog of work register below the neutral 50 level for a second consecutive month. Furthermore, the rate of contraction accelerated to the fastest in the survey history, according to survey evidence. Slower sales growth enabled firms to catch up on additional workloads. I mean, that's a good positive spin to it, but shit. I wouldn't want to be in this situation. So, stocks of finished goods. Question. Please compare your stocks of finished goods in units this month with the situation of 1 month ago. And there you go. You can see it's just lower. Increasing rate of decline. Inventory of finished goods continued to decline in the middle of the third quarter, marking the 6th straight month of contraction during August. However, the rate of depletion was the softest since March and only marginal. A combination of reasons was attributed to lower stock holdings, including destocking efforts, as well as slower production growth. Employment index. Question. Please compare the level of employment at your unit this month with the situation 1 month ago. And most the same, looks like tiny fraction up. Australian factory employment rose for a third successive month in August. However, the pace of job creation was the weakest in the current sequence of growth and marginal overall. While jobs growth was commonly linked to higher operational requirements, there were reports of layoffs at some firms. So that would be consistent with what we seem to be hearing, particularly in the comments. So the output prices index. So, question. Please compare the average price that you charge per unit of output, volume weighted, this month with the situation 1 month ago. Majority of them are the same, slightly more higher than lower, but you know, that's the thing. It kind of skews it, doesn't it? Because most people is exactly the same. So price changes for Australian manufactured products increased again in the middle of the third quarter, as has been the case in each month since November 2016. Well, what does that tell you, guys? Inflation was also the slowest since October 2017 and mild overall. Greater cost burdens were connected to the rise in factory gate prices. Greater cost burdens, I wonder what they could be. Perhaps energy costs? But there were reports of price discounting to boost both sales and competitiveness. Oh boy. Input prices index. Please compare the average price of your purchases volume weight this month with the situation 1 month ago. So you can see here more people are higher. So prices are going up for their inputs. Shoot. Sugary shug. I need a coffee. August data indicated a further rise in input prices in Australia's manufacturing economy. This is highlighted by the seasonal adjusted input prices index scoring above the neutral 50. Yep. Moreover, inflation accelerated to a 9-month high and was marked overall. Companies reported a weaker Australian dollar, a higher price for raw materials, and supply shortages as factors leading to cost increases. That's worrying for this sector. So suppliers' delivery times. Please compare your suppliers' delivery times volume weighted this month with 1 month ago. Majority the same, with a slightly, look at it, it's been slower overall. It doesn't take much, does it? Supply chains remained under pressure in August. This is indicated by the respective seasonal adjusted index register below the no change, so 50%. Longer delivery times were linked to a shortage of inputs such as steel, chemicals, and electrical components, as well as delays from Chinese suppliers. So, there you go. Delays from Chinese suppliers. quantity of purchase index. Please compare the quantity of items purchased in units this month with the situation 1 month ago. And again, it's slightly lower, you can see here. For the first time in 4 months, Australian factories cut back on purchasing activity during August. Efforts in adjusting to slower sales growth and excessive stock levels were highlighted as reasons for the fall in buying levels. Stocks of purchases index. Please compare your stocks of purchases in units this month with the situation 1 month ago. So what are we at? We're lower again. In line with lower purchasing activity, Australian manufacturers reportedly reduced levels of input inventory in the middle of the third quarter. There you go. The latest depletion was the third in the past 4 months. Whilst modest, the rate of decrease was the most marked since the survey started in 2016. Ooh. Firms pointed to efforts in reducing excessive inventories and weaker sales growth as the factors behind stock depletion. Okay. So, future output index. Question. In 12 months' time, do you expect the overall volume of output to be higher, the same, or lower than now? And everyone's higher. Everyone's higher. Is that just hope in 12 months' time? Or do they think it can't get much worse? So they're optimistic. They're optimistic. While still positive, business sentiment towards output in a year's time slipped in August, with the future output index dropping to the lowest for 3 months. New market strategies, increased production range, and higher sales forecasts drove optimism, though some firms highlighted concerns over drought-related disruptions and weaker market conditions. Wow, you got a positive bunch there. That surprises me. So, guys, this was Principal Economist Bernard Au and Joanne Vickers. Commonwealth Bank was Daniel Ferguson. So I think this is an interesting insight into just the opinions and situation of our manufacturing industry in Australia. And it is definitely slowing down. So guys, what do you think? Where do you think it'll head? What's your prediction for 12 months' time? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.